Caroline Martin Garr was Sister Abel Garr, who was Phyllis Garr's grandfather. Caroline's mother, Pauline, passed away before the saints left Nauvoo. Caroline was 6 when her mother passed away. She traveled with the first companies in 1847 across the plains with her father when she was 11 years old. She tells the interesting story that happened crossing the plains. That day, Caroline and her dear friend had permission to go ahead of the wagon train. It was a hot day, and they had an umbrella with them to shade them from the scorching sun. Caroline loved her friend, and they would play countless hours as they walked along the Pioneer Trail. It wasn't very long before she had heard a gunshot warning. When they turned and looked back, hundreds of stampeding buffalo were headed toward them. They said a prayer, opened up the umbrella, and crawled in behind it. The buffalo separated and ran around the umbrella. A prayer had been answered. Caroline lived on Church Island, or Antelope Island, until her dad passed away in 1855. She moved back to Salt Lake City with her sisters for 2 years when she became the second wife of Nathaniel Vary Jones in 1856. Nathaniel Jones was missionary companions with Robert Taylor Burton, who married Caroline's younger sister, Sarah Ann Garr, in February of 1856. Nathaniel Jones' first wife was Rebecca Marie Burton, who was the sister of Robert Taylor Burton. Carol married Nathaniel July 1856, 5 months after her younger sister married Robert T. Burton. Caroline's husband was a very busy man. He was in the Mormon Battalion, a bishop, and had been on several missions. He had just returned from a 3-year mission in India in October 1855, where he was a proselyting missionary and a mission president, and they were the ones that opened up that mission. In February 1856, he was called on a mission to secure lead by mining in Nevada. It was during this time that Caroline married Bishop Nathaniel Vary Jones. From 1859 to 1961, Nathaniel served a mission in England, part of the time as mission president. Soon after his return home, he was sent to Iron County to establish ironworks mining ore to determine the best prospect for making steel. The prospects were so great that Brigham Young requested his return to Salt Lake to find ore for making steel closer at hand. In November of 1862, he moved his family back to Salt Lake, and in procuring wood for his family in the mountains that November, he was in a very severe storm and almost perished. He developed a serious cold from which he never recovered, and he died of pneumonia February 1863 at the age of 40. A month previous to Nathaniel's death, Caroline gave birth to her first child, whom they named Mark Vary Jones. Caroline was a new mother and a widow at the age of 26. In 1863, weeks or maybe months after her husband's death, Caroline Garr Jones and her baby moved to Millville, where she kept house for her brothers for 5 years. She returned to Salt Lake Valley in October 1868, at which time she sold her third of the original lot that was inherited from Fielding Garr, including the house, for $700. A few months later, on December 26, 1868, back in Millville, she was married to John Clark Jamison, who grew up in Millville. John was known as a fine musician. John was a natural comedian. He had a dramatic company in Millville for several years. He played the violin, the accordion, the flute, the constine, and bones and drum all by ear, and he sang very well. Always a good entertainer, especially comic song and recitation. After living in Millville for a few years, John and Caroline moved to Bennington, Bear Lake, and then to Fairview, Idaho. It was in Fairview, Idaho, where she passed away in the year 1912 and is buried there, along with her husband.